Mr. Gillespie. 30 seconds to showtime, Mr. Gillespie.
Okay, thank you, Wallace. We're almost ready.
Ahem. What is he doing here?
Nothing in particular.
Is there something you're not telling me?
Well, would you look at the time? The show's about to start. I've gotta go. It's JG Reviews with our very special game. What game am I reviewing? Oh no! Hello everyone, I'm Joshua Gillespie,
And I'm Sid.
and welcome to JG Reviews. Now, as you may have noticed, I'm not too excited about this game.
Well, what game is it?
It's a game for the NES called Power Punch 2.
Why don't you review the first one?
Well, see, here's the thing. Most of you have already played the first one.
Wait, what?
Power Punch 2 was made in 1992, developed by Beam Software. Its original title was Mike Tyson's Intergalactic Power Punch, and was intended as a sequel to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. What?
Get out of here.
Yes, this was going to be the follow-up to the NES classic Punch-Out. Don King also signed on for the project. But as many of you know, during this time Mike Tyson went through a scandal that I won't go into detail about. Despite what most people say, this isn't why Tyson was replaced by Mr. Dream in later versions of Punch-Out. The reason that switch was made is actually because his original contract with Nintendo expired. The change made due to the scandal was Mike Tyson's Intergalactic Power Punch becoming Power Punch 2, as a reminder of what the game once was, even though there was never a Power Punch 1. Also, Don King's lookalike was altered, and the main character was changed from Mike Tyson to Mark Tyler. Subtle. Well, now that we know the crazy development history, let's look at the finished product, Power Punch 2.
Hey Josh, how do you review a game with boxing gloves on?
That was fun. Mark Tough Guy Tyler is the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world.
Gee, where have I heard that before?
After knocking out opponents with ease, Tyler and his manager start taunting the world. However, his claim that "no one can beat me" is picked up by a promoter for the Intergalactic Boxing Federation. His response?
Challenge accepted.
Thus, Tyler is brought into the ring to compete against the best boxers in the universe and defend his earthly title. Now, to be honest, I really like this story. It's pretty creative, and I think it's great that Mike Tyson was willing to poke a little fun at himself. And even with him being dropped, it's still a unique idea. It's a shame that everything goes downhill from here. You'd think for the gameplay, all they would need to do is copy the engine from Punch-Out and just alter the character and a few other little details. Well, instead they decided to change things. Let's go ahead and knock it out.
Wow, that one was bad.
So, you might be thinking that this is just going to be Punch-Out, but...
In space!
But actually, there are some significant differences. So, let's do a comparison.
Joshua, what is this place?
This, Sid, is the magical background room, where we can make whatever we want appear behind us.
Why haven't we used it before?
We couldn't afford it.
Oh, so that's where my paychecks are going.
Why don't you talk about what's the same between these two titles?
Alright. First of all, it's a boxing game.
Sid.
What? I'm just trying to give it something. Okay. Yes, they're both boxing games, but they're both like this vertical view boxing game, as opposed to, your standard horizontal ones. Secondly, if you hit the opponent at the right time, you'll get a star punch. Thirdly, to get up after a knockout, you rapidly press the A and B buttons. And finally, if you get knocked out 4 times in one bout, you won't be able to get back up. And that's about it, without going into the generic stuff like press B to left punch.
Okay, now let's look at the differences. First of all, this game wasn't developed by Nintendo. It was made by Beam Software under the supervision of Nintendo. Okay. Second, before some of the matches, you can increase your speed, strength, and stamina in a workout minigame. Cool concept! Third, the rounds are only 1 minute long instead of 3. It makes the game go a little faster, okay. Fourth, the stamina meter is missing, meaning you can become tired without any warning. Okay. And fifthly, the game has more cutscenes, and we'll go into more detail about those later. But I think that the two major differences between these titles are also the two biggest problems. The mechanics for dodging and the way the opponents attack have been altered. Horribly. Let us show you. When you dodge and punch out, it's a nice, quick, fast movement.
But in Power Punch 2, you slowly move to one side so you can avoid the... Oh wait, never mind. The opponent can move too, so he can still hit ya, making dodging usually impossible. Thanks, guys.
Which brings us to our second problem. See, in Punch-Out, when an opponent is about to hit you, he gives you a signal like, "Hey, I'm winding up here, you better get out of the way!"
But in Power Punch 2, it's more like, bam, bam. There is no pattern, so you're just praying for a miracle that you can actually hit them.
So you're probably thinking that this is where those workout mini-games will come in handy.
Nope.
It's just a tedious waste of time. Maybe I'm just bad, but I have such a tough time following the trainer. Thankfully, though, you can skip it and still get some points for the 3 S's. More than likely, you'll get more than you would have actually playing it.
I'll just go ahead and talk about this, but the cheat in this game is if you hold A, B, select, and push start when it shows the opponent's stats, you can skip to the next one. Or as I like to call it, pick your poison. The reason I call it that is because, of course, the opponents will only get harder as you go, and if you can't even defeat the first guy, what chance in hell do you have in defeating the following ones?
The gameplay for Power Punch 2 sucks. I'm sorry. I don't like to be overly negative. I tried to look at the good things in this, but there's so little to find. The idea of being able to raise your stats before a fight is a cool concept, but it was executed badly. The unpredictability of the adversaries leads to an unfairly heightened difficulty, making the playability and level of enjoyment very minimal, even for the most pro NES players. It'll require a large amount of dedication to improve, and I don't see most people wanting to invest that time.
Wow, that was a string of hard words. Simple version, please.
It's tough, it pisses me off, and I really don't enjoy it.
Well, maybe it'll all be redeemed by the presentation. No.
Alright, like the gameplay, let's compare it to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. First, the music. If you haven't noticed, during this review we haven't played a lot of music from Power Punch 2. Most of it has been from Punch-Out. That's because we didn't want to spoil the lovely sounds of this game. Yeah, let's compare it. Here's Punch-Out. It's catchy, upbeat. Some of the NES's more memorable and beloved tunes. Like something out of a Rocky film. Heck, it's something I could work out to. Then there's Power Punch. Yeah. There's a little bit of excitement in the title music, but once you get to the actual gameplay, compared to Mike Tyson, it's a little, what's the word? Dull, uninspired, generic. Yeah, all of those work. Unfortunately, the game doesn't shine in the audio department. Yeah, and those same 3 words can sum up the graphics. Look at the design of Punch-Out. It's bright, the characters have great, memorable, and fun designs. Like the music, it just boosts the excitement when playing. And even though there aren't a lot of visual cutscenes, the ones they have, like the bicycle training montage, that's a scene that's earned its place as one of the most memorable 8-bit scenes and has been parodied many times. Then you have Power Punch 2. It's all dark. Nothing really stands out. The arena you fight in is more like just a room. It's depressing to look at. Maybe it was supposed to look intimidating or creepy since it's supposed to be an alien world? The cutscenes I mentioned earlier, they're actually quite scary. The mouth movement looks terrible. Like they're trying to talk while eating something, but trying to disguise the fact that it's really chewy. In this situation, I would have been happier with just a still frame. As for the characters, the designs, while nothing memorable, are somewhat neat to look at, although a lot of them are just your generic alien or cyborg designs. Even the final opponent is But hey, looks like Blanca decided to make an appearance. Good for him. So yeah, this game just sort of fails when it comes to presentation. Some of you might be thinking that we're just unfairly picking on Power Punch 2 by trying to compare it to Punch-Out. Here's the thing though, regardless if it was official or not after its release, at some point in this game's history, it was the sequel to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. At the beginning of this review, I talked about some of the issues that this game went through during development, but I actually left out a few details. Let's go over them.
So the game was originally Mike Tyson's Intergalactic Power Punch. We all know that now. And after the Mike Tyson scandal, him and Don King were replaced by Mark Tyler and an unnamed manager. And the name was changed to Power Punch 2. But that's just the first knockout this game received.
Even after the Tyson situation, the game was still being made as a Punch-Out follow-up and was going to be published by Nintendo. Until during its development, CEOs from Nintendo stopped by. They looked at the game and immediately disowned it and dropped their plans to publish it due to the game's poor quality. Yikes! That was the second blow to Power Punch 2.
Now they needed to find a new publisher, so they recruited the help of the now defunct company ASC Games, also known as American Softworks Games, that also published such titles as Trolls in Crazyland and The Mutant Virus.
But then, due to limited distribution and issues with putting the game together, the release of Power Punch 2 was silent. And the few reviews of it by critics, were very poor. This was the third and final knockout for Power Punch 2, and it wasn't getting back up from this. It had lost the match. It really sucks that this game turned out so badly. I'm a huge fan of Punch-Out, and so I was looking forward to playing and enjoying this game. But those hopes faded quickly. Thankfully, Nintendo didn't lose hope in this series and continued it, even putting Little Mac into the next Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. Again, even though it's not technically officially part of the series, if you're a collector of the Punch-Out games, or you're just trying to get every NES title, those are the only reasons I can see someone purchasing this.
To those who say that Zelda 2 and Mario 2 are the worst NES sequels, well, I've got a new contender for that title.
And with that, there's no doubt in my mind,
or mine,
but Power Punch 2 deserves to not only stay in the shadows, but hopefully just be forgotten. You know, these past almost 3 years, I've reviewed a lot of video games. Not that I have a problem with that. I love talking about video games.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I've been doing some thinking, and I want a little bit of variety, so I've made a couple changes to the JG Reviews format.
Like what?
Well, I thought it'd be nice to maybe review some movies, or maybe some TV shows.
I don't know anything about movies. Heck, I don't even own a TV.
Well, I know that, Sid. And that's where I come in.